Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we've reconvened the town board meeting. So, where we left off,
I would like to read through the resolution after going into executive session and discussing. It came to my attention that there wasn't one error, but there were 3 errors from different parties involved. So based on all of the information, I'm okay. I don't want to punish any one of our own law enforcement, but I definitely would like to figure out what we need to do in order to prevent this from happening again, since when 3 parties touch it and you still have errors, we need to figure out a way to resolve issues like this going forward.
all right.
So I will read this. This is resolution number 5, resolution authorizing Town Labor Council Jackson Lewis PC on behalf of the Town of Carmel Town Board to request action to be taken by Putnam County Personnel Officer to New York State Department of Civil Service. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes and directs the Town Labor Council Jackson Lewis PC to request that Putnam County Personnel Officer ask the New York State Department of Civil Service to score the answer sheet completed by Town of Carmel Police Sergeant Laura Smith when she took the Police Lieutenant Promotional Exam number 77-231 PROM, administered on September 9, 2017 by the Putnam County Personnel Department, and include her name on the Town of Carmel Police Lieutenant eligible list prepared for the examination in number 77-231 PROM if Sergeant Smith passed the examination. I offer the resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, all right. Offered by Councilman Schneider, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Oh, we didn't? Okay, all right. All right, so the next resolution, actually, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. I'm sorry.
No, not
I'm
6.
sorry, not 6. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 is tertiary settlements. So, Councilwoman McDonough, would you read 6, please?
Sure. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, acting as Commissioners of Carmel Water District Number 12, upon the recommendation of the Town Engineer Richard J. Franzetti, hereby authorizes payment to B&J Plumbing, Mahopac, New York, the sum of $6,358 for goods and services rendered in connection with pump repairs performed at within Carmel Water District Number 12, all in accordance with the invoice dated July 19, 2018. And be further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, acting as Commissioners, I just want to make sure I didn't make a mistake, it's still 12, acting as Commissioners of Carmel Water District Number 2, upon the recommendation of Town Engineer Richard J. Franzetti, hereby authorizes payment to Ed Cook Excavating, Carmel, New York, the sum of $5,419 for goods and services rendered in connection with water leak repairs performed at 12 Seminary Hill Road within Carmel Water District Number 2, all in accordance with the invoice dated July 30th, 2018. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, acting as Commissioners of Carmel Water District Number 9, upon the recommendation of Town Engineer Richard J. Franzetti, hereby authorizes payment to B&J Plumbing, Mahopac, New York, the sum of $13,416.28 for goods and services rendered in connection with well pump repairs performed at the Locust Hill Station within Carmel Water District Number 9, all in accordance with the invoice dated July 24th, 2018. And resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, acting as Commissioners of Carmel Water District Number 2, upon the recommendation of Town Engineer Richard J. Franzetti, hereby authorizes payment to Ed Cook Excavating, Carmel, New York, the sum of $11,441.86 for goods and services rendered in connection with well water leaks repaired performed at Kyle Court within Carmel Water District Number 2, all in accordance with the invoice dated August 6, 2018. I offer this resolution as read.
Okay, offered by Councilwoman McDonough,
Seconded.
seconded by Councilman Schneider. Roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, for resolutions 7 through 12, they're all certiorari settlements. And I'm going to ask Councilman Lupinacci to read one of the full resolutions, and then just add, if you will, add the tax map numbers at the end of the resolution you read to include.
Greg mentioned to me how I should do it. so-
Okay, All right.
If I screw up, correct me. If I screw up, Greg,
Okay.
correct me.
This way we don't have to read all.
Whereas there is currently pending in the Supreme Court, County of Putnam, State of New York, under Index 500420, 2017, certiorari lawsuit for property tax map 75.8-2-6, and index number 500431, 2017, certiorari lawsuit, tax map ID or tax map number 76.5-1-28, and index number 500427, 2017, a certiorari matter lawsuit against the town of Carmel, tax map number 75.7-3-9, and index number 500422, 2017, again, a certiorari lawsuit, tax map number 64.16-1-20, and index number 500421, 2017, a certiorari lawsuit against the town of Carmel for tax map number 75.11-1-3, and index numbers 500557, 2017, and 500914, 2018, two certiorari lawsuits against the town of Carmel, tax map number 65.17-1-25, and for all of these parcels and lawsuits, whereas a proposed settlement of the litigations have been negotiated by Glenn DeRosie, Town Assessor, and Special Counsel Gregory L. Fulchetti, both of whom have recommended approval of the proposed settlement. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town of Carmel, the Town Board of Town of Carmel authorizes the settlement of the aforementioned litigations and recommended, and be it further resolved that Special Counsel Gregory L. Fulchetti is hereby authorized to sign on behalf of the Town of Carmel the stipulation of settlements and corresponding consent judgments reflecting the terms of the various settlements for each lawsuit.
Offer them as
Second.
pre-filed and as read.
I offer this as pre-filed, all of these as pre-filed and as read.
Second.
Second. Okay, it was offered by Councilman Lupinacci, it's pre-filed and read, and seconded by Councilman Borelli. Roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli.
Yes.
Councilman Schneider.
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci.
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough.
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you.
That was a first.
Yeah, thanks for reading all those, John. All right, next resolution, number 13, Councilman Borelli, I'm going to ask you to read this. It's a resolution rescheduling a public hearing on a proposed local law amending Chapter 89 of the Code of the Town of Carmel entitled Freshwater Wetlands, and the date of that proposed public hearing is October 17th, 2018. Councilman Borelli, would you read the resolution, please?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes the rescheduling of a public hearing at Town Hall, 60 McAlpin Avenue, Mahopac, New York, on Wednesday, October 17th at 7 p.m., or as soon thereafter that evening as possible, on a proposed local law amending Chapter 89 of the Code of Town of Carmel entitled Freshwater Wetlands. And be it further resolved that Town Clerk Ann Spofford is hereby authorized and instructed to publish and post the necessary notices in the official newspaper of the town and on a town bulletin board regarding this public hearing. I offer this resolution as read.
Second?
Okay, seconded by Councilman Lupinacci. Roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli.
Yes.
Councilman Schneider.
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci.
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough.
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, next resolution, number 14, is a resolution authorizing scheduling of a public hearing on a proposed local law amending Chapter 111 of the Code of the Town of Carmel entitled Peddling and Soliciting. And that date is also October 17th, 2018, the public hearing for that. Councilman Schneider, would you read 14, please?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes the scheduling of a public hearing at Town Hall, 60 McAlpin Avenue, Mahopac, New York, 10541, on Wednesday, October 17, 2018, at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter that evening as possible, on a proposed local law amending Chapter 111 of the Code of the Town of Carmel entitled Peddling and Soliciting, and be it further resolved, the Town Clerk, Ann Spofford, is hereby authorized and instructed to publish and post the necessary notices in the official newspaper of the town and on the Town Bulletin Board regarding this public hearing. I offer this resolution as read.
Second?
Okay, offered by Councilman Schneider, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote?
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, the 15th resolution, final resolution for this evening, is a resolution authorizing submission of a grant disbursement agreement to the New York State Dormitory, State, and Municipal Facilities Program Project, ID 7316. Susie, would you read the last resolution, please?
Sure. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes the submission of the grant disbursement application for New York State Municipal Facilities Program, Project ID number 7316, for the Airport Park All-Purpose Facility renovations. In form is on file in the Office of the Town Supervisor. And be further resolved, the Town Supervisor, Kenneth Schmidt, and Director of Recreation and Parks, James R. Gilchrist, are hereby authorized to execute and grant disbursement, the grant disbursement application in accordance with the provisions thereof. I offer this resolution as read.
Second?
You want to give me the amount, sir? It's for
What was it, 250?
yeah.
Yep, and just everyone's, no, it's for $250,000, this grant.
From the state.
Yep, from the
For the
state, so,
airport park, yeah.
it's for the airport property right there off of Hill Street.
Okay, thanks, Sue.
You're welcome.
Did we do a roll call on that?
Not yet.
No.
We didn't?
Not yet.
Who seconded it?
Councilman Lupinacci?
Lupinacci? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, that completes the Town Board voting meeting for this evening's agenda. Is there anyone that would like to come up before we move on to the work session? Is there anyone who would like to come up and comment on any of the voting meeting agenda items that we covered this evening? Come on up at this time, if there are. Okay, there being none, I need a motion to close the voting meeting.
So moved.
So moved by Councilwoman McDonough. Second by Councilman Lupinacci. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to open the work session.
So moved.
So moved by Councilwoman McDonough.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Lupinacci. All those in favor? Aye. All right. So the work session is now open, and the special work session agenda item, this is the engineering department. This is discussion regarding Carmel Water District Number 9, discussion of the design changes and the project bid results. So Rich and John, if you'd like to come up. I'm sorry, and Rob.
There's only one mic on that table, Kenny, for the
I'll move it over for
for the
Rob.
people at home.
Yeah.
Whoever's speaking, I'd like them to speak into the mic clearly, and let's keep the technical jargon simple so the average person can understand it.
All right, can we do something, one other thing, Mike? Guys, I'm sorry. Can you move that table that way so the camera can pick up everybody at the table? I just didn't think with Rob sitting over in that corner there would have blocked him. All right,
Put baby in the corner.
thanks, guys.
Set.
All set. Yep, take it away.
For, what I'd like to do is just walk through the bid evaluation, how we took the bids, how we developed the bids, et cetera. For the people from the district, there's a copy of the bid evaluation that we provided to the board on the table if you'd like to have a copy of it, the document that I'm gonna review. Right here on the front table.
Okay, sorry, go ahead. Apologize. You got the floor.
So the bid documents were put out for advertisement at the end of July. Bids were due at August, I think, the 16th. 13 contractors took out the bid documents. 11 of them attended the mandatory pre-bid meeting, and 7 of them submitted bids representing a 64% response rate, which is actually quite good. It's probably one of the better response rates that we've had on any of I think this is the 5th capital project that we've done since 2014. So the response rate's very good. You can see the 3 low bidders are there on page 1. The low bidder was Brennan at $1.269 million, Landscape Unlimited at $1.295, Legacy Supply at $1.314. The 4th bid was Yonkers Contracting. They came in at $1.317. So the 3 lows are within 3.5% of one another. The difference between them is about $46,000 or $47,000. So what that tells you is this is a very tight bid, especially in August. More importantly, the low bidder and the number 3 bidder are the 2 organizations who did previous improvements in this district, so they're intimately familiar with the working conditions in that neighborhood. They know the job. It's a unit price bid. That was explained to the contractors at the pre-bid meeting. It's explained extensively in the bid documents. And what that means for the audience is that what gets installed is what gets paid for. This is not a lump sum where if Brennan is in fact awarded the contract, he's not going to get paid $1.269 million if he doesn't install 100% of what's in the bid. Okay, so there's been a question that we've been going around in circles on. How come there's 3,500 feet of pipe in the bid documents when there was only 2,500 feet of pipe in the report? So the original resolution from February of 17, we originally estimated 3,200 feet of pipe for this job. When I developed the report, we had scaled that back to some degree. And then ultimately, at the end, knowing that we had 3,200 feet approved, I met with the operators we were at 90% on a design, and we looked at the loop at the backside of Woodland Road, because the way the wells come up right now, it comes up to Woodland, and then there's only one route to the storage tank, and we thought, well, we got 3,200 feet of pipe. It's a unit price bid. We don't have to award, or we don't have to construct 100% of it. Let's close the loop so that there's an alternative 2 routes to get water to the tank. So that's how we ended up at a 3,500 foot bid. Recognizing, and I'll backtrack and say, I did not inform the board when we changed from the report quantity past what was the authorized quantity, and I clearly should have done that. But again, because we don't have to construct 100% of it, that can be dropped out. So Mary Ann Maxwell and I today looked over the numbers, and there's a couple of cost reductions that could conceivably be made here that still gets new water pipes in front of everybody's house. The closure of the loop on Woodland would drop us from Brennan's bid number down to about $1.099 million, about $1.1 million. We also extended the pipe from the bottom of Rockledge Drive across Westlake Boulevard to, I think you guys call it the beach. Okay, there's an extension down there that comes across, and that was actually based on what the county wanted for its permit, and the county highway department wanted for its permitting requirements, was another $60,000 for 60 feet of pipe. It was pretty expensive because of their pavement requirements, their striping requirements, et cetera. So that would put you down around $1.034 million, and then I'll let Mary Ann address it, but basically you're in the middle two segments of whichever one of these bonding alternatives, which term you select. So that's where you are. Oh, the last thing is how come when we estimated the job, I think I estimated about $700,000, $697,000 in change for the construction cost of this, and why are the unit prices so much higher here? This is memorialized in a memo to the board from a week ago, so I had estimated a production rate of 100 feet per day. And I based that on about 50% of what we constructed when we did the water rate construction up here on the hill several years beforehand. When I spoke to the contractors, the low bidder, Brennan, estimated his production at 60 feet per day. The middle guy, Landscape Unlimited, they estimated their production rate at between 50 and 60 feet a day, and Legacy Supply estimated their production rate, like Brennan did, at 60 feet a day. So the slower production rate escalated the unit costs for pipe production, and that's where you see the bulk of the money in the job.
Sorry,
That's a
I'm
question.
just trying to clarify. Water District 8 was completed at an average of 200 feet per day?
Produced in terms of construction, production,
Okay.
yes, it was much faster.
But for District 9, we're looking at an estimate anywhere from a quarter to a third of the footage per day being constructed then? Because we're
Right,
down
so-
from 200 down to anywhere from 50 to 60, basically.
Right. That's correct.
And I can only make an assumption, which I know I'm not supposed to do. Rock ledge.
Say it again.
Rock ledge?
Rock.
All rock?
On this job, yes.
That's why it's called Rockledge.
Yeah, I can only imagine that that's why production rates would be down.
There are several issues. The rock volume slows it down. This is not, we went around and around with all of the contractors during the pre-bid meeting about blasting, about whether the town would permit blasting, whether it would be a good idea. I don't think that it's a good idea in that neighborhood, as unattractive as hammering rock is in that neighborhood. That can be ameliorated in some fashion by pre-drilling, but it's much less damaging to the neighborhood and potentially much less damaging to everybody's basements, especially as close to the roads as they are. So you have rock, you have the difficulty of the rock removal. It's slow whether you drill and blast or whether you drill and hammer. The roads are narrow, so maintenance and protection of traffic, there were guys who queried closing the roads. And that's not a viable alternative given the season of the year. And quite honestly, it's not a viable alternative for emergency traffic. If you need to get an ambulance through and the road's closed because the guy's got it tore up, that doesn't work. We had to maintain at least one-way traffic, and they then had to account for that in their production range because they can't, in their production rates, because they can't simply close the road, cut, and go. So,
Are you surprises? I mean, Rockledge is named Rockledge for a reason.
right. No, they're not surprised.
The roads up there, I mean, they've been there forever. I mean, are they surprised? Is this a surprise? This is not a surprise to anybody?
No, it's not.
Okay, so
Nobody
I
said it
want
was
to
a
make sure
surprise.
that's clear. So the estimate was off, that's the bottom line. There's no surprises on the condition of the roads or the rock on the
Right.
Rockledge Road.
I just said the estimate was off. I said I estimated 100, and the contractors estimated 50 to 60% of that production rate. That's exactly what I said. Yes.
So Greg, with these numbers coming in higher than what we authorized for a bond resolution previously, because I think, no matter what, I guess the question is, what do we need to do to get the project complete? Do we look at these bids, and do we say that these bids, based on 4 coming within 5% variance, are good for what the project is? Do we say we reject all bids, we go out, we do change orders, whatever it may be, add, deletes, modifications? Or do we say, okay, we authorized up to so much, we know we're going to need to borrow more for that? What are the options that we have at this point?
Well, anything that exceeded the initial borrowing amount for the project, you'll have to authorize additional borrowing. So you'll need an order calling a public hearing for whatever the additional borrowing amount is, and you'll have to conduct a public hearing, make a public interest order thereafter, and then authorize a borrowing up to a certain amount. Anything you would do in terms of going forward with the contract would have to wait for that process to be complete and the estoppel process after the bond resolution or any bond resolution was passed to be expired, and then you could award it. Okay, that's if you were going forward in some capacity with the project and excess borrowing is required. You can accept the low responsible bidder, you can reject the bids, you can reject and rebid. There's any number of options that don't involve getting to the additional borrowing now. But if you're going to go forward, there's no model that you won't have to get additional borrowing authorized.
The bids are right on the money.
Yeah, so I guess that's what it seems like. The numbers are all very, very close to each other. I guess the question then is, with winter approaching, we had been discussing this, and I was in with the engineer a couple months ago with the rep from Water District 9 talking about timeline. In order to keep on the timeline, would we be able to award lowest bidder, start the entire process for increasing what our bond was? You have to do bond based on what that number is.
In order to award the bid and enter the contract, you have to have the funding in place. You can have other funding sources other than bonding, but my understanding is the district doesn't have the money in its reserves in any capacity. So it's going to be a borrowing authorization of some sort. And you have to have that in place and finalized before you award the contract.
Okay, so then I guess the next question then, leading on to that, in order to see what we would need to do, instead of delaying a process even further, can the general fund loan to the district, and then we do the bond, then we get the money back to the general fund? Just because I don't want to see it go, oh, now we're in wintertime, now we have to wait till it thaws out, now we're going to be into summertime, and now we're looking at a year again before completion of this project.
There's a mechanism for interfund transfers that we can look into. I wouldn't say at this particular moment that that's a definite. It's a possibility.
Okay. I just want to figure out what we need to do to finalize this project. My understanding, this has been going on for decades, and it's something that's pretty important to complete. I know that there's been a stalemate for quite some time going on with it, and we just need to figure out what we need to do to get this going forward and keep things moving. It's difficult that the estimate of 50% production compared to what we did at 8 wasn't conservative enough to keep the numbers within line, but we just need to
What was that number?
move on.
What was his overage number?
50%.
It's 85%. The estimate was off by 85%.
No, so he estimated
back. It was
50%
40%
of
off
what
the-
was done at Water District 8. If Water District 8 was out 200, 50% of that is only down to 100. If he would have said, oh, you know what, we're probably not going to be at 50% production, we're going to be at 35% production, then he cuts that number down again. But it just wasn't conservative enough. No matter what, it wasn't conservative enough. We know that. We got to figure out what to do. What do we do moving forward? Questions from the public, figure out. I mean, no matter what, you have 160-plus homes that either are getting water or need to get water, have either paid for water they're getting or paying for water that they're not getting. This project needs to move forward, so we just got to figure out what we need to do to get it move forward.
Would you like to run through the numbers for the audience?
Yeah, I think that would be great.
More information they have, I think would be
Yeah, I mean,
better.
John and I worked today.
Mary Ann, just explain what numbers you're talking about.
I will,
You and John worked on this today?
yes.
How come
Yes.
I didn't know about this?
I talked to you earlier.
I,
I did,
I,
and I
okay,
sent an email to
go
the
ahead,
board.
but I think in the future, bring me in on this, okay?
Okay, I did.
Bring
I
me
did-
in, you and John, not just you,
Okay.
Mary Ann. Please bring me in on it so I understand.
And I sent an email
What-
to the board
I-
explaining that John and I did
I
did talk.
understand.
Okay.
But I'm the supervisor.
I know.
I'm the day-to-day operations.
I did
I'd like
talk to
know-
you also, but,
I'd like to know about it.
okay, I did.
I'd like to be in part of it.
Okay.
All right?
Anyway, so John and I did discuss, because the original estimate that I sent out did to the board earlier, I think it was earlier today or yesterday, the linear feet did not match up to with the cost estimate. So John called me this morning and asked where I came up with those linear feet based on the cost estimate. So we talked about it and came up with a better linear feet estimate based on the project that based on the original 3,500 linear feet. The project cost was $1,450,000. If you were to take out Woodland Road, the cost estimate would have been $1,285,000, and that would be approximately 2836 linear feet. And then if we were to take out Westlake Boulevard, correct me if I'm wrong in any of these, it would be 1,220,000, approximate linear feet of 2772. So I ran the bond, the debt service at a 15-year bond, a 20-year bond, and a 30-year bond. So at the $1,450,000, your annual debt service cost would be $760, and that would be for 15 years. If we're to do the $1,285,000, it would be $673, and then $1,220,000 would be $640. Then you have.
You're mentioning take out Woodland and take out Westlake. What does that mean? Does that mean you wouldn't be-
So if you, well, I don't have a big enough map here, but the back corner of Woodland Drive from, what's the road, James? What's that? From Kirkwood, there we go.
Talking about this here, okay, this is already in and across the street, and then up to here, then it's there, then he's talking about going around this part.
What we're talking about, on Woodland, the wells are on the backside of, is that Kirkwood?
That's it, right?
On the backside of Kirkwood, and it comes up, and then it feeds onto Woodland and back. Okay, and this loop is the piece that with the extra 700 feet that we're talking about closing, so.
This is all.
Not putting that in doesn't change the current operating condition of the system. Putting it in improves the operating condition.
They need a mic.
Because right now, the only way for water to get all the way up to the well is a one-way path. Now, get back down.
With all the gate valves and everything you have to close off in section.
It's only one pipe, so this dead ends. So if we close that loop, then we could get back up there the other way around, so that any break on Woodland.
Can't you back feed from the tank? Can we have the tank that's running?
And you can
Yeah,
back
back
feed tank, but you can do that, but in the event that you have a long power outage and a break, okay, you don't,
Yep.
just basic operational considerations, okay? So if we don't build it, point being, it doesn't change the operating condition of the system as you go along, okay? And the other piece that we're talking about taking out was we were gonna.
Already cut across Westlake.
Yeah, there's the bottom piece where we were gonna pipe it all the way to Westlake. I mean,
Already
there's,
across there into the.
right, there's an old galvanized pipe that comes across there now.
It's there.
That we were gonna replace, we can tie to that galvanized and eliminate that crossing and all of the work that would need to be done inside of the county highway right away.
That's already in, and I don't know why
Sorry,
the
Ken.
county would charge you 60,000 feet.
No, they're not charging you, it's just, they're not charging us, that, okay, the pavement.
60,000,
I said, that's what the bid cost is. The county didn't charge us that. That's what they bid, okay, for the pavement restoration and the striping that the county asked for. That's right. But those are the numbers that are in the bid. So that's why I'm saying we could eliminate that, and it doesn't change the operating condition of the system. Thank you.
Kenny? People should come up and speak at a microphone so people in the back can hear.
Okay?
Do we have a easel that we can put that, like, this is where we,
Can we just use it for the evening, or would that be a problem? Can we use it for a little bit this evening? Okay. We promise not to read them.
Yeah, mine.
So at any rate, that description is what, is the segments of the pipe, of the project that can be eliminated, and that takes the project cost down to the low number that Mary Ann just cited.
Right, exactly. And then I also did those estimates, and everyone has a copy of them at 20 years and 30 years. Where Greg was explaining earlier, the borrowing authorized is the original estimate of 882,800. So we would have to get additional borrowing authorized. We'd have to have a public hearing, which it's kind of like what we're having now, but we'd have to schedule a public hearing officially.
Mary
That-
Ann, can I simplify something
Sure.
for the public?
Sure,
So with the three scenarios
yes.
to bring the cost down, the actual borrowing cost is still up on average 50%.
Yes,
That's all.
yes,
Not
correct,
50.
correct. From the
50 or
original
better.
borrowing, correct.
Go ahead.
So we would have to have another public hearing, and then you have to wait a 20-day estoppel period before the bid can be authorized, once a public hearing and a bond resolution authorizing the additional funding is authorized. So we're looking at the end of October before we could actually award this bid. Correct, Greg? Is that-
That's pretty reasonable
Unless we look
timeframe.
into other options as far as borrowing money from the
Right.
general fund, but.
Talked about an interfund option or something, it'd be
I think we
quicker, but-
could, if we authorized the borrowing at $1,450,000, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be the cost of the project. As John mentioned earlier, if it's unit-based, then we would end up borrowing, once the project is complete, we would borrow the full amount, but not more than what, what the actual costs were.
Just come up to, yeah. They can,
Well, if you're going to ask questions, I
just come up to the microphone,
Yeah, because I like to hear the public before I comment on this,
yeah.
All right, so who,
and I have a lot of comments on it.
My name is Kenny Robinson. I live at 39 Woodland Road, which is on the corner of Kirkwood and
can you
Woodland.
pull the mic up a little so you don't have to?
Let me understand this. You guys are going to eliminate the new line going down Kirkwood Road?
No. No. No, it's going to be completed, okay, and then tied off all the way around the bend. No, we're going to eliminate the segment, for clarity, we're going to eliminate the segment on Woodland beyond Kirkwood, coming around to Vista Terrace.
John, can you just correct me if I'm wrong? Looking at that loop being closed off, that would bring the cost down by 250,000? Is that approximately right?
It would bring, at
No,
Brennan's,
eliminating
at
the loop is
Brennan's
totally
bid
different.
numbers, Brennan's bid, so the numbers that Mary Ann is presenting are total borrowing costs. It's not construction contract cost. All right, so the construction number would go from Brennan's bid of 1.2693, 1,269,300, down to
1,934.
1,099,340. So yes, it
The
cuts
1.1 million.
So
about
it's a-
$250,000.
It's, well, no, that's only 170,000. That's even less than I was thinking then. It almost seems, and I guess I need to understand engineering a little bit
Yes,
better.
Yeah.
For redundancy in a public water distribution system, if we were to take a look at total cost, to give it redundancy for an extra 170,000, doesn't seem like a absorbent amount. For redundancy, I mean, if I'm gonna get redundancy, and you're already putting in over $1 million, and that's just the final leg of this very large project, $170,000 to get redundancy back in, that's like installing generators on every one of our water districts. Redundancy is huge. Redundancy is a very big thing, so I almost want to do a cost analysis on that as well. If it's $170,000 difference, and we're talking about bonding out almost $1.5 million, I'd rather see redundancy on a project than no redundancy, so that you guys don't get water if there's the power outage, the break in the line, whatever it may be. And then I guess I'd have to understand, how long would we be out for? If we're talking about being out for a week, $170,000 is a pretty good investment over a 30-year bond repayment. That's my thought.
You're not, there's not a person here that would do a 30-year bond.
Who's paying for that? Taxpayers?
Anybody in the district, it's
Just in the
only the
district.
district that's going to pay for it.
You're gonna
Every
pay for
penny of this
I
improvement
just-
is going to be paid for by the district.
Wait a minute, before we go any further, we just want to make it clear.
Marion will
The
never do it
people in the audience, if you talk from there, the audience cannot hear, the people at home. So the question was, who is going to pay for it? And the answer is just the people in that district. So again, if you want to talk from there, just please come, because it's not fair, because I'm sure there's people in the water district up there that are watching from home, and it's not fair to them that they can't hear. Yeah, so if I repeat what you said, that's the reason why.
If I could get another background question in, just, I see the number 161. That would be the total district after completion. How many houses aren't hooked up yet? Out of that
No,
161?
That's 161, that's the total taxable parcels. On my spreadsheet? Yeah.
Yeah,
But that's total parcels in the entire district?
yes.
Correct.
How many people haven't been hooked up yet? What's this project?
Well,
gonna-
everybody's
Everybody's
connected.
hooked
This
up.
is a replacement of the old leaky galvanized lines with new PVC.
So this is getting rid of old bad pipe?
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
And this is making sure that everybody's got good pipe
Correct.
and possibly adding redundancy to the system?
Yes.
Okay.
I think you're safe.
Mary Ann?
Just to piggyback on,
Sorry.
okay, I know. I'm sorry, Lisa. I'm sorry. The estimates that I did give you is based on an assessed value of $320,000. So if your assessed value is higher than that, then the cost obviously is going to go up. If your assessed value is lower, the cost per year for 15 years will be less. So I just wanted to make sure everyone's aware of that.
Mary Ann, you said 320, right?
320,000.
Okay, thank you.
320,981, that's the average assessed value in that district as of today.
And
Mary
can you
Ann,
correct me?
the
Sorry, go
average-
ahead, John.
The average bonding in the past for like, say, a sewer or a water, I guess water, since we're talking water, is what? Like, what did we bond 8 for? Was it a 15, 20, or 30 year?
Yeah, I would say 15 to 20.
15 to
I don't
20.
go higher than 20 years. I haven't. I mean, I don't think it's a
No, that's
cost,
fine.
yeah.
I didn't-
I wouldn't go higher
I
than
didn't
a
remember,
20-year
so
bond.
that's why.
Generally, what we do with our bonds, and I think Water to 8, we did do differently because it was a large project and we didn't want to overwhelm the taxpayers in that district, is usually we combine our highway projects and any other projects into one bond, and then it's, obviously the cost is allocated per district. But I think the Water District 8 project, we did bond out separately because it was a large project, and if we bonded it for, 15 years, it would have been too much per year for those taxpayers. So I think we did go 20 years on the Water 8 project. I can double check on that, but mostly we'll go 15 to 20.
It was 20,
It was,
I live-
okay.
I live in 8.
Yeah, yep.
so I'm paying it.
But I wouldn't go higher than 20. I wouldn't recommend going higher than 20.
I don't remember.
This pipe is the same pipe we're having issues with in Water District 2 that we just replaced, that we're looking at doing the coupons on? Is this the same type?
No, this is old galvanized. These are small diameter, 2, 3-inch, old galvanized lines from the original system, as opposed to the old ductile iron that we're replacing in Water 2.
Okay. Because we've just seen so many people from Water District 2 who came up with brown water, and we've only heard about getting this project completed. I haven't seen any water quality issues, but if there's pipe that's an issue, we have to do something about it. We don't want to be the next city that's out there saying you're not taking care of your water.
Quickly, Lisa.
All right, Lisa, quick, right? Quick, come
Yeah.
on, before somebody else starts.
I'm Lisa Lacudero, I'm a resident, Water District 9. I have a question, and I don't know a lot about engineering, I'm not proficient in engineering, and high finance is not my, I'm not educated that way either, but I have a question about, it's simple. In February of 2017, bonds were secured?
No, the board passed a resolution
To approve, okay,
to design and bid
perfect.
this
So
project.
why did it take a year and a half for the design and the bid specifications to get complete? Because the way I see it, that's what's costing me money. The length of time it took between that proposal and where we are now has the rate of bonds has tripled in 2018, according to what I read. So that length of time cost me out of my pocket. So I just want to have a question. Why, is that typical? Is it typical? Does it take long? Were you too busy? I mean, I just want to know. Simple.
No, The bond resolution was made in February of, or not the bond resolution, excuse me. The authorization to go forward with the map plan report and design was given in February 15. I think that we delivered the engineering report, it seems to me, in April or May, which had to be approved and then leads to a bond resolution before there would be any approval to do the design. So we put a proposal to do the design work in front of the board, I think in June or July.
Of what year?
Of 2017.
Oh, 17.
Okay, and so, or I think I put the proposal, yeah, it was in May of 2017, and the final vote to authorize the work occurred in October of 2017. Okay, so it took us from October of whenever, to October the 5th or 17th or something like that of 2017 until the spring. It took us about 6.5 or 7 months between the design and the regulatory approvals, which we probably won't build across Westlake Boulevard, but so it wasn't a year for actual design. It took that long for the process to work its way through.
It took that long for the bid specifications and the engineering design because,
No,
I mean, by the time it was approved to now.
It took 6 months for the engineering design specifications and regulatory approvals from the county health department and the county highway department to get us to be able to bid the project in July. So we went from February, where we initially requested, right, where Rich's memo requested that this go forward, to October, just to say, go ahead and start the design work. Do your survey, commence your design plans. It took that long to get the decision out. Then it took us 7 months or 9 months from October to July to actually put them out to bid.
Why did it take 7 months?
That's one of my questions, Lisa, and I have
Why
better
did it-
dates. And I have a gap of about 10 months, which I think probably cost the taxpayers probably $100,000.
That's all my question is. I mean, I don't know anything.
You went into a different bidding
You know,
season.
the other
But
thing is,
I
too,
have more
I
facts
want
and
it
more
done
numbers. I'm going to ask
well.
the three of them the same question.
The
I'd rather see the
borrowing resolution was approved in June of 2017.
Okay, but I'd rather see the project inclusive of all the areas. And $170,000, I agree with Councilman Schneider, is probably worth it, you know, to get it done right so we don't have problems. That's not my problem, whether it was proposed at $900,000 or 1.3. The length of time it took for us to get here is what cost the most. And I'm just trying to figure out, is that normal? I mean, that's a pretty long time. And unfortunately, that's what makes the rates of the bonds go up, the length of time. That's what I'm asking.
The economy changed dramatically, too,
Absolutely, yeah.
which,
Good for investors, not so good for issuers or taxpayers.
Mary Ann, what's the difference of the rate for if we bonded, say last year versus this year?
I don't have last year's rates, but
That'd be
the
almost
rates.
a point.
That's what I'm thinking, but just trying to figure it out.
But Mary, he's just
Close
waiting
to it,
for.
rounded to it.
A 15-year is 2.56. 20-year was 2.76. And the 30-year was 2.97. That's an estimate as of today,
As of today. And last.
That was on the 1,220,000
Yep.
that I ran today.
And last year, roughly the same, or?
I think it definitely went up. Rates have gone up. I don't know if they triple, I mean, they didn't triple. I mean, they definitely went up, but I don't have that on me right now.
Yep.
Okay, sir.
My name is Philip Horowitz. I'm at 23 Vista Terrace. I've been a happy homeowner in the Maybach Hills Association since 1997. I believe that this has been a discussion topic since that time. My question to this group, as I hear Mr. Schneider elucidate, hey, let's get this done already. We've been hearing that the roads are going to be paved. No, we have to wait till we do the water. And every year, this has supposedly has been brought up and brought up and brought up. The cost of this project over the last 15 to 20 years makes the cost of the interest rate peanuts. Now, you can say, okay, let's delay this some more, so interest rates go higher, and then we delay, and every year it goes up 5%, 10%.
Like it has
And
for
if
the
you
last
don't do
20
it
years.
right, and do it right once with redundancy, you're gonna do it again. I've seen it time and time again. I've sat on many planning boards. I've sat on boards of zoning. And I'm not an engineer, but I know that the longer a project like this gets delayed, and it's already been delayed, has anybody taken a ride around the Mahopac Hills?
Oh, yeah, my girlfriend lives up there.
It's terrible. Scary. It's a shame. We have got I implore you, and I
Yes,
implore
thi-
you in a nice way.
Yeah,
I'm
this
not-
should have
I'm
been
not
done
trying to
20
beat
years
up on
ago.
anybody here, believe me.
Yep.
But I implore you all to consider the fact that we've been living with these roads and this project for decades. We have got to get this done. If we don't get it done sooner, we're going to pay more later.
Yeah.
It's inevitable. Thank you.
You're welcome.
He's right.
Thank you.
15 years ago.
It's 21 years.
It should have been done, yeah.
You guys want to take a break, because you might
No,
be
go
here a
ahead.
while.
No,
No.
Hi, my
going.
name is Steve Lacadara, and I am the president of Mahopac Hills Association. I was here a couple of months ago to talk about this system, the completion on it, and so I can give some information to our neighbors and members. You have on here, the agenda is for only 3 minutes each. I think after 30 years, I can take a little more time, no? This is the emergency repair bill for 6 years. On an average, it's $31,000 a year. Where's the other 14 years from the project started? You're at 190,000? You're at 434. Add the 190 onto it. You're at 700,000, and it's not completed. Kings Ridge, 100% done. Tars, roads, concrete curbs, pavements, Mahopac Hills. We're gonna spend another $700,000 on repairs. It's right here. But you didn't give me the other 14 years, so I don't know. Mr. Forchetti, I understand that you come highly recommended, and I understand that your father was highly recommended, and he did a wonderful job in this town. And I understand that he was on the last project. I believe that his engineering firm designed it. According to specifications from the Department of Water, the DEP, the city, the state, probably Albany and whoever else you might want to add in there. I'm not sure, but this has been designed. This whole system has been designed. Every gate valve, every turnkey, everything. Sized over, 20% more, can't build any more houses. So we're okay, we're not gonna need any more, right? That has been done. All the designing, all the engineering, all that has been done. $58,000 for engineering fees from Mr. Forchetti. That something's been done already. I can take my CAD program that I developed, take it and switch it and put it over here, and there I got it. I don't have to do anything. Why are we getting charged $58,000? That's one.
Steve, where did you get that number from?
Where?
Yeah, his
Oh, I'm sorry, it's
His-
43,000?
his fee on this is 160,000.
How much?
160,500,
160 on a
That's
million
not, that is
something?
absolutely not correct. That's the
including, I'm
contract
reading it,
value.
including survey,
not-
Okay,
design,
if that's not
permitting,
correct,
construction
the
administration.
58,000. How could you charge us $58,000 for something that's been done?
Where was it done? My father never designed water district.
As-built drawings, do we have them? Rob, do we have them?
Steve, I love you, all
I
right?
know that,
Well,
but
that's
do we
another
have
question,
as-built?
Steve, that's another question that I have with more detail. We also have surveying.
So Rob is
My
going to try to
question-
answer. Rob, go ahead.
My
Steve,
question.
Steve, John's father designed no water main.
Okay.
And that- The only water main that was designed
I
in that.
can't find out who did that. No one's giving me information.
Okay,
me
so,
finish.
so
The
let
only
let
water
Rob
mains that were-
finish.
I apologize then, sorry.
The only water mains that were ever designed in that district started in 1990 when we took the district. They were all done in-house by the engineering department, right? Survey, design, out to bid, and construction supervision.
Complete 100%.
No,
Mr. Rob, that means, that was all done in-house, right?
yeah, we did it all in-house. We
Rob?
did about, we did
Rob, I
about,
want to clarify something you just said. Say that again, please.
all right, so we did, if memory serves, we did about 5 projects. John was right about Cassidy and Brennan being contractors that did part of these projects. I had 4 major contractors do construction. Cassidy Excavating, who is now Legacy Valve, had Brennan Construction. I think Archer might have done something, I can't remember. There was about five contracts. And they were all, in scope about 1,000 feet, or maybe a little more or less.
But my question was, you stated that was done in-house.
Well, we would always do all the survey work in-house, design work in-house, get all the permits in-house. The permits we were required to get would be, if we were on a county road, we get a county highway permit. And then we would submit our plans to the county health department, which would basically be our design plans, and we get a permit from them. And then we would put it out to bid and do the construction supervision.
So all the permits and everything, all the design and all the engineering was done for our system.
No, all right. We didn't do the, we never designed the whole district, right? When we took the district, it was a shambles, right?
Right.
So what we do, like every district we've taken since I've been here, the district was a disaster. So we immediately go in with what I would call like a triage, right? Do what we can, replace the sections that are the absolute worst, right? Mindful of the debt that we're incurring in the district, right? And that would be our procedure with any district. And then, like, if you take Water District 8, what happened with Water District 8, we slowly replaced sections of mains. Then we got to the point where we had,
Where is that district?
we're in it.
It's all up
Kings
here.
Ridge?
Yeah.
Kings Ridge, you guys did it all one shot.
No, we did not.
No.
We triaged it initially, right? Then we got it to the point where we had, I don't know, John would know better, 10,000 feet left that needed to replace, and we decided to just put it out as one job. That's the way it happened. And that's the way every district, I can go down the line, 7, 6, 8, 9, 10, all disasters when they get to us, and we just start slowly replacing sections of main as we go.
So none of these sections-
It was never, the project was never designed in its entirety.
Steve, I might be able to clarify for you, only because your concern is one of the biggest concerns I have right now. It's something that our engineering department's going to be talking to us in the next few weeks about. Every one of our special districts basically doesn't have an inventory of valves, of pipe. Your summary of, hey, I put it in my CAD, bring it over to this CAD, and we're ready to rock and roll. We don't have a CAD. We have so many things that have been piecemealed together. We're looking at spending probably over $750,000 just so that we could get inventory on every special district. That's what the bids came in for us. So that's because for 80 years, 50 years, 60 years, things weren't done the way that we would think that they should be done, where everything is accounted for. There's a system where we're able to say, hey, nice egg, hey, we have a pull down over here, here's this valve, here's this, here's this. We just don't have that system right now, but we do need to work towards that. If we did have that system, I'm sure it would have alleviated a lot of the charge for that, because unfortunately, we don't have that information for every district 100% encompassing. We do have things that have been piecemealed together, whether it be things that were acquired or things that we took on after the fact, but we don't have anything that's comprehensive where everything's together to say, here's your water, here's your sewer, here's your electric, here's your other utilities, here's where your markouts are here. We just don't have it right now, but we want to work towards it because we know it really is part of the solution that we just don't have right now.
Okay, so in the future, they won't have this problem.
So what do I get to tell my neighbors? What do I tell them? That's gonna cost
It's going to
Well,
cost
well,
more money
hopefully-
for water
$500
than it is for your town taxes.
for their water?
Well, unfortunately, this was not done 15, 20 years ago. Everything, like the gentleman said, everything is talked about, and then it stops, and then years go and years go and years go. Unfortunately, or fortunately, this town board is very proactive in stopping that. Like Mike used to say, we're not kicking the can down it anymore. You know, it's good in one way because down the line in the future, town boards aren't going to have that problem because we're fixing it. Unfortunately, 15, 20 years ago, it didn't happen. So, you know, we're kind of unraveling. That's my take on, unfortunately, what's going on with the water districts.
Okay, well, that's an answer. I don't know if everybody's going to be happy with it, but, okay, so the design is 48,800. The,
That's the construction administration.
I'm sorry.
Let me go through
$27,000.
the figures with you, because I was told I was wrong, and I'm reading it off a proposal that's signed by the consulting engineer. The survey work is estimated at 4% of $27,900. I brought this up, if you remember correctly, 2 years ago, a year ago, 6 months ago, that the survey for this property is in the vaults upstairs.
Right.
We have a bill sitting for $5,000 that we paid for additional surveying work, because supposedly the surveying work we have is not adequate for this current job.
It was incomplete, excuse me, Mike, but I need to correct this. It was a $25,000 estimate at 4% of the job. That is correct, okay? The survey that was upstairs was incomplete in terms of the road footage, the road coverage that was identified in the report. There was pieces of the road that were not surveyed in there. Any existing water mains and services were not shown on that survey, okay? And they're important.
That's what I said.
Pieces, no, you said it's 25.
What I started to say before you said you're going to correct me, that the surveying work
correct.
upstairs is supposedly not adequate. That's what I said.
Not supposedly, it's not.
The second,
So the 27,900
Second, I have a-
at 4%
the
is when you go
second,
up to
no,
a
no, the
million,
second thing is
that's
the
going to be like
design.
3,500?
You're commenting on a design of 48,800. The third thing, which I commented about 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and 6 months ago, is the permitting at 35,000. And I stood right where you are, and I asked this board over and over, because I've done this for a living, Steve. You know that, okay?
I've done
Where
this
is there
too.
35,000 in permits? There isn't. That fee is for the company to get the permits, which amount to dollars. All right, which is one of the questions I'm going to ask John and Rich and Rob when you're done. And then the last one is the construction administration of 48,800, which falls under total estimated engineering cost of 160,500.
Right, when you add up all those four.
Yes. You have
Just
to add up all
just
four.
for surveys, engineering, and whatever?
And we're very
Your own
lucky.
business.
We're very lucky because Mr. Fischetti advised the board that he's not increasing his fee because the bid doubled. Because by his contract, the way it's written, this can go up to about 300,000.
We could probably get everything done from an outside firm for $27,000.
Well, you can't do that because you can't bid it.
Why not?
We have a contract.
With who?
I'll bring that up later, too, with the consulting firm. We have an exclusive contract.
Who's the consultant firm?
The person you're speaking to.
Person that you're speaking.
John,
The engineering
John,
firm.
I
That's
think
the
this number may
consulting-
be over that
Consulting firm?
limit.
Don't tell me he does the work, too.
No, I think this is over that limit.
Don't tell me that.
I think you may be getting misinformed. I think that this is over that threshold, if I'm correct, on what we negotiated in the December contract.
This
is not.
you're talking to the person who oversees the work.
I mean, don't we have any departments in this town that does work?
Yeah,
Or do we
Rob
sub
just said-
everything
Rob
out?
said we used to do it all ourselves.
What?
Hold on. They were not doing the job, a
Finish
similar
finish your
job.
questions, because I got a lot of questions.
Yeah,
after
But,
that.
okay.
Mike, don't leave that hanging. They were not
Yeah.
doing.
John,
You
John,
do a small little
people
leg
can't
with
hear you.
3/4 inch galvanized is different than doing
I
a full
understand,
job
John.
like that.
John, that's what I did.
6-inch
for a
pressure
living.
pipes, John, it takes nothing to put them in, okay?
I don't sit in an
And
office.
if you got
I
a
sit in
blast, go get a
trenches.
grinding machine and grind the channel you need and put it in.
Now,
Not 48,000 for excavation and an extra 20,000 for extra excavation. Come on. Are you guys kidding me? Look, here, extra fill. What do you mean extra fill? What is the extra fill? Who's putting it in my pockets? Where you taking it? Where you putting it? Extra. You have the fill. It's in his contract to put it in. Extra fill. 200 yards. 40 trucks. More. Going through the neighborhood. Come on. Topsoil. 200 yards. Another 40 trucks going through the You got 4 flag people out there with stop signs? Come on, let's rebid this and get this thing down lower.
You can't.
What do you mean you can't?
We have an exclusive contract.
I don't care a shit about that. Sorry for my language.
Steve,
I
that's why...
can knock 500,000 off of this
Hey,
thing.
Steve, I ran for office with the same exact feelings you have.
But I can knock $500,000 right off of the things I just said.
You're in the business.
Who
you
made
understand.
this contract work and why?
We have had a contract with Mr. Fulchetti
We?
for quite
Who's
some
the
time.
we? The people?
He's not talking about that?
No.
The
that's not
people
what
or the
he's talking
board?
No. Go ahead, John.
The people of the board decides on what gets paid. Who?
The contractor
So I'm
comes
gonna
up with the
spend more
number.
money by putting this guy here, but I'm elected by town people to make it cheaper. Not in this case. I don't get it, guys. Come on. It's simple arithmetic. Extras don't go in bids. You buy the contract. No extras given. They're in here. Adds up to money. Why? Crossings for street markings, 30,000. Come on, it's crazy. I don't think you guys should do anything. I think everything should go back out, and that contract should be withdrawn. I'm done. Let me know
Don't
when
worry.
my ordinance is gonna be done.
30,000 for crossing.
Sorry about
Yes,
the
sir.
out of hand, but it's not really, the way I do business. And I do good business.
No, it's,
Go ahead.
go ahead, sir.
My name is Kevin McCarthy. Easy question. From groundbreaking until it's finished, how long does something like this in Mayapack Hills take to do? Is it 2, 3, 5 years? I don't know.
No, you're looking at, if he produces, if they make their number at 60 feet a day and you install 3,000 feet of pipe, you're at about 50 construction days, about 10 weeks. Now, throw weather and everything else in, I think you're looking at a 6-month construction cycle.
6 months?
Yes.
That sounds unusually reasonable. 6 months?
6 to 9 months.
6 to 9 months.
Be
So,
safe.
okay. But I was here a few months ago, and they said October it was going to begin, but it doesn't look like it's going to start, okay, but 6 to 9 months is what it would take. Thank you.
Correct. You're
This-
welcome.
This probably
Thanks.
isn't going to start until the spring of next year.
Right.
I don't see this happening but until spring. We're not going to award the bids in October. That would be foolish because the contractors aren't going to be able to work in the cold weather and the snow and ice and everything like that. And you're going to have equipment on those roads. The roads are going to be impacted. You have buses that travel those roads, highway trucks. You don't want to start this now. You want to start it in the spring.
Yeah.
No.
No, oh, no. There's no
commitment
commitment
to
to
what?
that.
By the way, you have,
Commitment to
There's-
what?
I wish we could. I don't like commitments, because a lot of times when you commit to something and it doesn't happen, then the person that commits to you, gave you the commitment, they're held accountable for that. And I don't like that. I wish I could commit to it, but it is.
by the way, this neighborhood has 3 main entrances in and out of it, and it's got 5 loops that you can go around to avoid anything that's being done in the neighborhood. So traffic's not gonna be.
Steve, you could just simply close the road. You don't need traffic control, because there's loops.
I-
Right.
Vista Terrace is a loop.
5
It's a
loops,
Okay,
complete
3
loop.
major entrances.
but
So,
if
now,
there's, you know what, I have to disagree, because if my girlfriend who lives up there needs an ambulance, sorry, even if it's 30 seconds more, okay, something can happen to that child. So for the safety, I mean, and you guys can all talk about it as far as the safety point, but you really need to look at if a road is closed, which it may be possible, but if a road is closed, if it's going to take a fire truck or an ambulance to get to someone's residence any slower, then I'm not for that. Okay?
The response
I don't
time.
think,
And
Steve, I don't
you
think,
don't know
Steve,
what the
The
response time
response
is.
time will not be affected
So,
by it. You don't know
there-
Vista
so-
Terrace then.
I don't think
like I do.
Steve is saying.
I know,
I know
I'm
where your
just saying,
girlfriend- I know where your
I'm
girlfriend
just
lives.
saying, let's
So I'm
just
not saying
ask.
close the roads. You're only doing 60 feet a day, which is gonna take you 58 days.
What he's saying is 50,000 is
58 days
excessive.
almost like 30 weeks.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, if you close a road, just, or whomever's doing it, just look at the impact, just to make sure, because I
5
don't
loops in and
want
out.
something to happen to anybody up there.
5
Yeah.
loops, you won't get worried, you won't get stuck anywhere in that neighborhood.
There's
You're only
four-
doing 60 feet a day, you
There's
can't.
4 different entrances.
3.
There's loops, This-
3 and 5 loops.
You
Can you
could
see if
take, you
anybody
could
else-
take that 50,000 right out of there.
Anybody else wants to
You
speak?
could take it right out of there because it's not needed.
Kenny, there's a lot more.
In my opinion, I know other board members will disagree, but I've been a professional in this town for, God, 40 years. I know Vista Terrace. I know how to get around Vista Terrace. The fire departments know Vista Terrace. The ambulance corps, the police know Vista Terrace. They know how to get around. You can close that section of the road while you're working on it. You could save 50,000 right there.
And you possibly can. I'm not saying we can't. I'm just saying let's look into it instead of just saying let's close it.
It's
That's all.
Too late to look into it.
Any more comments from the people?
Anybody else have anything they want to say?
Yeah, that's it.
My name's Frances Goodwin. I live at 27 Kirkwood Road.
Kenny?
My personal I have letters I've written to this highway department since 2013. I've been down here many, many times. My personal home is the most affected by this water damage. It's a little emotional for me to go up here. I've spent thousands of dollars trying to protect my home. The whole front wall is collapsing. The stairs are collapsing. I've put in French drains. I personally called in favors and had an engineer come in and look at it and make recommendations, and I wrote a letter in 2013 to you. And it's like, I know we're talking about it, it has to be done, but the personal cost of this, to me, as the worst affected person, has become great. It's an emotional cost, a huge financial cost. I had to put in a concrete retaining wall because the whole front wall collapsed. It's hot and it's dry. My front steps are soaked. The whole wall on one side, you can squeeze water out of the wood. And everybody says, oh no, it doesn't have anything to do with the pipes. And I don't really know how to resolve this, and I don't really understand the engineering behind of it, although I've learned a lot over I moved here in 1994, the last 24 years. So I'm asking you to work together as a board, and I understand Steve's really angry, and I understand people are really upset that they've got to pay $500 or $700 a year more in water, or more in their taxes, or whatever, to pay for this. I've personally spent at least 10 times that much protecting my individual home. And I, by myself, cleaned out the whole entire drainway that goes between me and my next door neighbor's house and rolled boulders down there and lined it with rocks. This is something that really needs to be taken care of, and I'm sorry that my neighbors are going to have an increase in their taxes. But for 24 years, I've paid for them. And I've also paid individually by myself to try to protect my home. So I'm asking the board to act with some kind of maturity. There's a lot of bickering going on. I know there's design costs and construction costs and private engineers and town engineers, and bond rates go up and down. All of that needs to be settled. And I think it's really time if we can kind of form some kind of coalition. I talked to this gentleman the other day, and I even at one point consulted an attorney about suing the town because I've been so upset about this. As the single most affected person out of 160 homes, I'm asking you to stop this bickering and let's try to take care of a really bad problem. Thank you.
Steve, you have to, they can't hear, remember?
Ma'am, I'm sorry. Who did you speak with the other day? You pointed over in that direction. Who'd you speak with? Rob?
Wait, Ms. Goodwin, did you talk to me on the phone?
I came into the office, I talked to you, I've talked to this gentleman here many times.
I know I've talked to you on the phone several times in the past.
Yeah.
I don't think
I talked to everyone. I was in the town, do you remember, Marianne, what day I told you I was in here? I came in, it was the gentleman, when you walk into the engineer's office, sits all the way in the back right-hand corner.
Yeah, that's Rob.
That's Rob.
Yep.
That's me.
Yeah.
And did Rob or Rich, was it confirmed
They
that
were
it's...
telling me the bids were going to go out on the 16th.
I don't think, I have spoken to you in the past, and I know you, because I've probably been out to your property, but I've been around for a while. I don't remember talking to you about any bids or bid dates. You may have
It was
talked to Rick, or you may have talked to,
Because then I think I called your office afterwards and,
Yes, ma'am. You and I spoke when we talked about when the bids would be received.
yes. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people here, and this has been going on for a really long time, like 24 years.
Yeah, too long.
So what did you want to know from me?
The question is, I'll ask the engineering department. Was it confirmed by the engineering department that the water issue you're having is coming from the system, or is it groundwater?
It was indeterminate.
Well, wouldn't, if it was coming from our system, wouldn't it have chlorine in it?
can he not?
We've spoken so
I'm gonna
many
preface-
times.
Anybody test the water that you're?
Yes, Kenny, they have. We've had Joe Scollin at B&J go up there. I tested the water. I've been up there a bunch of times.
All right, and what's the answer? Was it chlorine?
Indeterminate, no chlorine has been determined in that water. It could be groundwater. We don't know. It could be a leaking pipe that the chlorine does dissipate afterwards, and you don't see it when it does finally daylight. You don't have sometimes chlorine coming out, but it is still a water leak.
Well, if it's a leak in the system, if the system's causing this homeowner's problem, then we should take care of that, no?
Right.
Shouldn't that be something that we should address?
But Ken, what Rich was saying when he said it still is a water leak, he wasn't saying that this is a water leak. He was just giving an example.
So it could be groundwater.
It could be.
We don't know.
Yeah.
Wait,
I
it's
will say-
groundwater
Rock out
only
there,
in
you
front
don't
of, excuse me, if it's groundwater, totally groundwater, then it's only in front of my house and some in front of my neighbor's house. His whole driveway is being undermined, the one side, but when they did test it, they've been out, right, it's indeterminate. So it doesn't say it's groundwater, it doesn't say it's a leaky pipe. I'm just saying, I have spent thousands of dollars to try to save my home.
And
Personally.
is it always wet out by your home?
Always.
What's your address again?
27 Kirkwood Road.
27 Kirkwood Road. I'm gonna take a ride out there and look at it myself, thank you.
I believe you've been out there, sir, before.
Well, I may
I
have.
think you and I stood on the street in front of my house one day.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Well,
Ma'am, thank you.
27,
No,
right?
Kirkwood Road,
Kirkwood
yes.
Road, okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to come up and comment on this, from the residents who reside? Anyone else who hasn't spoken yet? Oh, Kenny, you did, but, okay, go ahead.
I just have one thing to add. To back up to Mrs. Goodwin, okay? When this system was originally replaced back in whatever, 1990-something, okay, 1997, Kirkwood Road was left out. Kirkwood Road is the original line from when Simone had the water system, okay? That line has broken, okay, around 20 times, okay? The report that you have there, okay, doesn't show anything for Kirkwood Road. All right, but that line itself is broken 20 times. So that's what she's talking about, all right? Just in front of my house, okay, which is on the corner. My water doesn't come off of Kirkwood Road. My water comes off of Woodland Road, okay? Just in front of between my driveway and Woodland Road, right, that stretch right there, it's broken there about 15 times. The house behind me, which is the Alardi house, the line runs through their yard. Okay, it's broken in their yard 3 or 4 times. Okay, so, I mean, there is an issue on Kirkwood Road. What her issue is, okay, I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if it's coming from the water pipe, I don't know if it's groundwater, but the bottom line is that line right there on Kirkwood, that goes from the corner of Kirkwood and Woodland, wraps around, okay, passes her house, and then connects on the other side in front of James Maxwell's house, okay, that was the old line.
Is engineering, is Kirkwood Road included in this project?
Of course. Yes.
Okay.
No,
so
I'm just backing up.
Yeah,
what
you
she
mentioned
said.
something about it wasn't in the report. It's
No, when I came up here originally, I thought he said that Kirkwood Road was gonna be eliminated, and then he clarified that it's not.
Hey,
But to
Ken?
back up what she's saying, okay, is Kirkwood, that runs down from Woodland, okay, in front of my house, was the original line. That line was never even replaced back in the early 90s.
Ken.
Okay, Ken, thank you.
I think what he was referring to when he said report, it's not in Mary Ann's report identified for leaks. The leak. So he's
5 years of
saying,
cost repairs.
he's looking at her report, referring to that report.
Yeah.
And it doesn't identify the 20 leaks that he's speaking of.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Ken, anybody else?
All right. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir.
It would seem like a strong commitment from this board to take finite steps with some dates attached to it, to move this project along as expeditiously as possible would be in order.
Yep.
And that's what I would ask for.
Give you guys a timeline. Yep.
I think we're all in
We're
agreement.
We're all in agreement with that.
We're in agreement with that. That's not the issue.
This
That's
here is not,
the-
a stop or not do it. This here is why did the numbers come in the way they did? And that's the questions I want to ask.
And the resolution to that is an evaluation by those who would know and get to the bottom of it as quickly as possible, not another year.
Right.
No, this is getting started. I mean, I think we're all in agreement.
That's all I'm asking.
This is starting. The bids were real bids. The contractors were real contractors. We have no problem with the bids or the
It's
contractors.
just alarming. It's alarming to some folks.
It's how the process was handled
The cost of it
in the last 18
and the
months.
process.
Cost of it is only gonna go one way.
Up.
Up.
We all know that.
Kenny, you have any questions for him, or can I ask some questions?
Be as quickly as possible
Yes.
before it
Goes up again.
goes really up,
Well, it went up from 800,000 to 1.3 million.
only because of inaction.
It went up, well, listen, we know that, we talked about that. The map plan and report that was filed that this board acted on had 2,525 linear feet to be replaced. When it went out to bid, an additional 1,000 feet was added to it. So the map plan and report wasn't amended. When it went out to bid, we had no knowledge that an additional 1,000 feet was added to the project. I had no knowledge of it. The board had no knowledge of it. The engineer sitting over there had no knowledge of it. Yes, Steve?
Why didn't anybody have the knowledge of it?
I'm
But
going to
it
ask those
appeared-
questions. I'm going
I
to
think
ask those
Mike is
questions
gonna-
now, Steve.
Mike is going to address
Oh,
that.
okay.
I'm going to ask those questions.
I'm sorry, but
Okay.
when John was speaking, didn't he say that the resolution authorized 3,200 or 3,500?
The first one. Yes.
Yeah.
So it.
Another conflict of all the
But
paperwork.
but it had the.
The bid specs were for 2,500.
The map plan and report was for
The map plan and report was 2,500, correct.
Right.
There's a couple of little other
But the
items
resolution
that-
And the resolution
authorizing,
came after the map plan and report. Oh, it did? Oh.
it came before.
What do you got,
So
Steve?
based on
Because
the-
I want to ask some questions.
Based on this 6 years, everybody's been out there to do emergency repairs about almost 9 to 11 times per year, just on those 6 years. Okay? Yeah, we got shrubs and trees that are gonna be taken down because we have to clean 10 feet away on either side of the pipe in this bid. I don't know why that is when we dig in the center of the road, but it's in here.
Contractor's a local contractor who lives in the district. So I'm quite sure that he will be very careful with the
Yeah,
neighbors.
but it's in the bids, money is allocated for that.
There's a lot of things in the bids that I don't like.
Asphalt concrete curbs, what are those, like a mixture? Or does it come out like greenish gray? What is asphalt concrete curbs? Either the asphalt or the concrete. And we don't have curbs, we have what they call a shovel-made curb. They stamp the shovel on it, it looks like a curb, that's what we have. So we're gonna get curbs? Let me know, I'll do them for you.
Ask that question now.
Are we gonna get concrete curbs or asphalt curbs? Asphalt's a lot cheaper than concrete, but as far as the formwork and the machine that you rent can do, well, about maybe 280 feet a day, right out of the back of a truck, so 2 guys can run it. It's very inexpensive.
It's a technical term, despite
there's
the
money
earlier
allocated.
request, okay?
All this
It's
money
asphalt.
allocated in this bid.
It's asphalt. It's
Okay.
asphalt.
So a lot of this money is either gonna be used or not gonna be there.
That's what I said at the beginning, that it's a unit price bid. If we don't use the extra soil, or the extra this, or the extra that, then you're not gonna buy it, okay? If we need it, we have a price for it, because all of those other items are included in the pipe installation cost.
Okay, 100 cubic yards of extra rock removal. I don't get it. We're gonna remove extra rock? Why?
It's an additional price that guarantees the contractor holds that number. If you do not use the extra 100 cubic yards,
How long are the
you
pipes?
do not pay for it.
How long are the pipes? 20 foot long?
13.
How much?
The typical length is 13.
13? Did you say 13?
13.
Sorry,
13.
13. Less connections, couldn't we have gotten a longer pipe to make it work easier and less fittings and less down the road damage?
It's bell and spigot pipe. There are no extra fittings unless we have angles.
Okay. What are they called? The vacuum holes? What are those vacuum holes?
The what?
Precast concrete air vacuum holes?
Air vacuum,
50-inch
manholes,
diameters?
manholes. Air vacuum relief valves for the high points of the
Manholes
system.
in the neighborhood we're gonna put in?
You're gonna have 2 of them at the high points of the system to get the air out of the system when
And
it
what's
binds
the
up.
functions for? What's
Say
the
it again?
function gonna be used for with the manhole?
It's an air vacuum relief valve located on top of the pipe that vents the air out of the pipe.
How come none of them were installed when we did the first section?
I didn't install it, I don't know.
Is there a problem that they're not installed and you're installing them? Is there a reason why you're installing them?
Because it's a sound design to put air vacuum
Is
relief
it
valves.
required by DEP?
DEP doesn't have anything to do with this. DOH, yes, the
yeah,
Department of
so-
Health requires it, yes.
It is? So
Yes.
then we should have had them in last time, maybe, or no?
I don't know that you laid all that pipe at the high points of the road.
Okay. On your plan, it says reputed. That means that you may think it's there, that pipe?
It says,
Reputed, what is that? Look, yeah. That means you think it's there or no?
means that we didn't dig a test hole, and the contractor will dig a test hole to confirm what's there.
Okay. All right.
Kenny, I want to ask the professional some questions.
Okay.
Huh?
But I want to
Only, you finished, Steve?
I just want to say to the taxpayers of the district, I have a stomachache over this, okay? I've been following this water district for 3 years. I feel sorry for anyone that lives here. This is one of the reasons why I ran. And it comes down to a bunch of things. But, I mean, you got 161 houses. Your O&M is between $800 and $1,200, with another $600 increase. Your operating and maintenance is going to average about $1,800, $150 a month before you drink the water. That's more than your town taxes. All right? But the bottom line is, that's what's going to happen. We're going to get it fixed. These are the numbers. That's what's going to happen. The emergency repairs, Steve, I preached up here, all the districts. The next district that's going to be here is Lake Baldwin. Okay? They're all a mess. They're all a mess. We spent 2 or 3 years discussing these. Like I said, I ran on this platform. So let me ask, I'm bothered by how it escalated and nobody knew. That's what bothers me. So, Rich, I want to ask you a couple questions first. You're town engineer 4, 5, 6 years?
I was hired on November of 2013, so this upcoming year would be my 5th year.
I'm close, okay? Who runs the engineering department?
I do run the engineering department.
All right. You stated to us and the board that you knew nothing of changes in these plans over a 1-year period. How is that possible?
The contract was given to John to do, and I'm not trying to throw John under the bus. It was the work that was done by John. The contract that the town board has with John is to do this design. He was given his design parameters to go forward with. John went and did it. As I run the department, I let John do what John has to do in this case because he is a design engineer in that particular
You're the
instance.
town engineer. You have the answer to that. Shouldn't you know what's going on?
I do know what's going on. I should know what's going on,
All right,
yes.
but not on this one.
Correct.
When I got really pissed when I sat down with you to the extent where I just had to get out of your office because I refused to accept the fact that our town engineer, now we employ two, which is another thing that I ran on. We have $250,000 of town engineers sitting here. Okay? Two people, $250,000. And that was another thing I ran on. And I'm not going to, let me save that. I went in the stairway, I left. You were with me? Kenny was with me, and you followed me down because you saw I was really burnt. And you said to me, Mike, I go, I want to ask you one question. Just give me one answer. Who authorized another 1,000 feet to make this price go up? You could tell me, because I'm going to say it anyway.
Actually, I don't remember what I said to you in the stairwell, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful when I say
You
that.
said Joey Skolin. I says, I tried to hold it in.
No, all right, so now, I did not say Joey Skolin did. I said when John spoke to Joe, it was talked about that
Right.
additional.
Joey added on
pipe
1,000
should be
feet.
added in there.
Right.
So it wasn't that
Oh.
Joey Skolin authorized it.
Well, I said that.
I apologize if that was
I
how you
said that.
understood it, so.
I actually went to the Yankee game that night, and I spent 3 hours with Joey Skolin in the Audi Club, laughing over that.
Well, hold on. It's laughable if you actually make it sound that Rich said, Joey, you added the extra 1,000
No.
feet. But if they had the conversation.
They had a conversation.
Saying the better design is an
They
open
had
loop.
a conversation, which I'm going to say.
That's
That Joe
different.
said if you want to do it the really right way, you do a complete loop.
Okay.
Right, but
If you
that,
don't, you put 2 fire hydrants on the ends.
right, but that's what Rich kind of just said
Right, I'm
to
getting
you.
to that. I'm getting to
You know,
that. You can
what I
ask all
don't
the
want this
questions you
to
want.
do is what the woman said before. I do not want this to become a witch hunt for the engineering department. We are here for the Water District Number 9 project. If we have issues of how the engineering department is run, we can certainly discuss that in executive session, not out here.
Let me tell you something. Everything that has to do with the taxpayers, I'm talking about out here. And when I see $250,000 sitting there, I'm talking about it out here.
Right, but just get the,
So
but
you
Mike,
can
you're
correct me when I'm
misleading
done,
them.
because
You're
I have some
misleading them
questions for you, too.
because you were just saying that Joey Scullin said it, and Rich, you
I'm
you
putting it
believe
out there,
Joey, but not
because you
but not
wanted Joe here
Rich.
tonight.
Suzie, we let
I'm
the,
giving
we
you
let
what
the,
you
we
want.
let
I just
the
wanted
councilman
everyone here.
speak.
Okay,
We
I'm
let
giving
them
you what
speak.
you want.
I
Everybody's.
know, but, go ahead, Ken. Go
let- let-
ahead,
let-
Mike.
Can I ask you a
let him
couple
speak.
questions?
He's trying
Go
to make
ahead.
a point.
Let me ask you a
As long as
couple
they're
questions,
right, we'll
Robert.
let 'em.
Mike, so far he is.
How
I
many
was
years
there.
have you been here?
It'll be 31 November.
31 years.
I was there.
You have more expertise in this building than everybody on this board combined.
Do you want me
This
to
is
say yes
30
or no?
years here.
Do you want me to say yes or no to that?
No, I figured it out. There's 30 years sitting here and 31 years there. Now, besides your experience here, you got a couple other college degrees. One being a law degree, you passed the bar?
I
That's
did.
pretty impressive.
So we're going to talk about
Up
personnel.
until when,
Is that what we're doing?
up until how long ago did you do the permitting that we're paying $35,000 for? And roughly, like when was it done in-house where you did permitting and stuff like that?
I mean, I would say, just by memory, we were still doing some in-house work when Ron Gaynor was town engineer. Not a lot at that point. And at that point, we did go out to bid on the vast project, which was the Water 8 project, which was one of those design jobs that was just going to be way too big for our department to do in-house.
All right, but-
And those come along from time to time.
Okay.
Right?
And in your 30 years here, have you ever seen anything like this ever happen?
Like what? Like this project going out to bid
Yes.
with an extra 1,000 feet?
Well, yeah, and just everything about this project, not knowing what went on for the last year.
I mean, let's just do it this way. Every project, when you create an estimate, you can expect the best evaluation of what a project costs is what willing bidders are willing to do it for. Good.
Right.
That
Because
having-
on your-
So, let me just finish, Mike. So that having been said, all right?
On your letters, like, Rich sent a letter to the board why it has happened. I did not like your breakdown of numbers. They were very misleading. Okay, I'm in this business. I've done this. All right? You can't break out one thing and say, okay, we can save this, because every other piece is part of it. In Rob's letter to the board, when we asked what happened with you, I had no involvement in this project from conception to design. From 1990 to present, I was responsible for survey work, design, bidding, construction, oversight, every foot of PVC replacement water main that was installed in Water District 9. So from 1990 to the present, you were responsible for that district. This is, I underlined a couple of things. This is a 40% increase. It should have gone back to the board for authorization, which we all know. And John said he made a mistake. I tip my hat that you said that. I mean, everybody in this building, Mike in the building department says, I'm going for authorization for 4 houses to clean up. If I did 6, I'd be in trouble. If I sent one of my employees to the lumber yard for $1,000 worth of lumber and he came back with $2,000, he'd have a problem with me.
Mike, if I may.
I mean, you have,
Mike, if just specifically on that issue.
I have
Okay.
specific questions for you two, and you could just tell me that.
But you're talking about an action that I took, okay?
sorry,
which
I
I
can't-
acknowledge. I said you're discussing an action that I took that no one else, even though the initial question started at Rob, I would like to address that, okay? There was an extra 300 feet from the authorization to design and advertise made in February, okay? That's more than what I put in the report. There's no question about that. And I do acknowledge that I should have said something to the board. However, I say to you and I say to you that you're not obligated to build all of that pipe. You can
No
build it
question
on a
about it.
unit price basis.
Yeah,
So
no
I
question
just
about it.
want that to be clear.
Well, but I want it to be clear that your estimate was off by a mile, even with that 1,000 feet out. And you're the expert. And what really bothers me, the 27,000 for the surveys, we billed 5. What happens to the balance of that money? Does it go back into the kitty, back to the taxpayers?
Of course.
The 35,000 for the permitting.
How much
That
did it
was an
cost?
estimate. We did not use 35,000 in the permitting.
So what happens to the balance?
It goes back and it
Excuse
doesn't
me?
get
It's not
bonded.
part of the
It doesn't-
actual
it
cost.
doesn't get billed and it doesn't
That's
get bonded.
that's
It's
a
not
ceiling.
it's not expended.
So
It's not what I asked. I see 160,000 in total fees. I'm saying what happens if you don't use 52,000 of it? Who gets it?
Nobody.
Nobody.
Can I
So
explain
it
that?
doesn't get used, it comes off the bottom of the taxpayer's bill.
No,
It's not
what
cost.
would happen with that is the final project would be reduced by that amount, and we wouldn't bond, we'd only bond out.
Comes off the bottom line. So
Correct,
that
correct.
52 comes off the 160. I just want
Yes,
these people to hear that.
Yes, that's
Well, the
correct.
160
We would
and-
only
and the
bond
total
bond
amount.
out the total, project cost.
Now,
Less
there
than
was
52.
a 10-month delay. In my mind, I used the word right there, delay in bidding, which in my mind brings us into a crazier market. That's why we had so many good bidders. That's why we had so much activity. And that's why the prices were higher. There's no doubt in my mind there was a 10-month delay, based on all the numbers and figures and everything I have here. And I just find it fascinating that the map plan report is a 40% increase, and the estimate is like off by 85%. It's just, everything about this stinks. Everything, okay? And it comes down, again, and I'm going to address Jonathan and Susie on this, because you might want to say it, Jonathan. A month ago, I offered a resolution to rescind the contract. I offered a resolution to open up, renegotiate it, which I actually got a tweak from Mr. Lupinacci. You stated, I thought we were beyond this. We're regressing, we're going backwards. No, I look at it totally differently. I look at it as I'm moving forward, I'm trying to fix a problem. And I think it's obvious to me, and I think it's obvious to the taxpayers, that if you don't go out for active bidding and have a broad scope of people instead of an exclusive entity, you're going to get better prices. Sue said to me at the time, at the same meeting, I asked for reports. I asked for reports on on the fee that's paid every month, which is considerable, and as an expert politician that you are, you deflected that to include all departments and started speaking about all departments for about 10 minutes. Now,
Hold on, Mike. First
let
of
me
all,
just
don't
finish.
say,
Let me
no, no,
just
no,
finish
don't
the
say I'm an
sentence.
expert politician, because that's an
No, that
insult,
was a great
okay?
move.
No, no. And second of all,
But it
with
backfired.
the supervisor, we discussed about getting monthly reports. So
3 years.
if, for 3 years, okay,
but
we've been
that
trying
night,
to
when I
get
brought
them.
up that I want to see a report, you went in the next sentence, I want a report from everybody. So now let me tell you what happened.
Right, for 3 years, we should.
Now, let me tell you what
Mike,
happened.
I'm not going to lower myself and start bashing people.
Don't lower yourself, Sue, let me
I
finish.
am not, believe me.
I'll lower myself because that's what they hired me to do. Guess what happened? We got a report from everybody in the building, every department head. But you know what I didn't get my reports from? My request. Ann, are you here? Did Ann leave?
Which Ann? Annie or
Ann's
Ann?
here.
And I want what I requested a month ago. I want a report for the last 8 months stating what was done for the fee we're paying our consulting engineer. That's what I want. I don't care about any reports from anybody else. We have everybody else's.
That was delivered on August the 15th. I don't know where it went, but it was delivered on
We
August the 15th.
do have it. He did
Okay,
comply
that's the
by.
only one I didn't get.
He did comply. They all, pretty much they all complied. A few people were a few days
So
late.
who'd you give
But
it to?
most departments,
No, wait a second.
Did.
It was part of Rich Franzetti, the engineer's report.
Correct.
That's what I
John's-
asked for.
That's not what he asked for. That clearly wasn't what Councilman Borelli asked for.
oh, you wanted to come right from John instead of John giving it to Rich?
Correct.
I
have no
instructed him.
problem with
I
what our
was
town.
instructed
I-
to give it
I
to the board,
told-
John's report through my
Correct,
report.
I did.
Who instructed
I
Councilwoman
did.
McDonough.
I said, Rich called me up and said, where do you want, I can't believe we're discussing this, because
Well, we're
we
gonna
asked for.
discuss it.
No. Everyone asked for the reports. Rich called me as the engineering and said, Susie, what do I want, what do we do with John's report? Do you want John to give it to you, or do you want it going underneath mine? I said, Rich.
It's very
He's
simple
part of
request.
the engineering department. But Mike, you have it. August
No,
15th,
I
we
don't.
had it.
I want.
Okay,
8
then
months.
then it's in the black hole in the supervisor's office.
I
Sorry.
want 8 months
What black hole?
to know what.
Talking about? Wait a minute, wait a minute.
Very simple.
Why-
Hold on,
Why
don't
is the
get-
town,
don't
hold on,
distract
hold
me,
on.
Kenny.
Why is the town engineer, Rich, you're the town engineer.
You
Why
just
are
told me you have
calling-
nothing to-
why are
you have nothing to
calling-
do.
No offense, but why are you calling
Because I sent
Susie
out
to
the
ask that
email.
question when?
Because I sent out the
email
email.
was directed by Councilwoman McDonough to
Correct.
me with regards to this whole thing about giving monthly reports.
Giving monthly
All I
reports.
know is on August
Not from
15th,
you.
I provided a monthly report that included
Well-
John's summary.
Okay, so Mike, let me get this straight. So you want John to report to Rich sometimes?
No, I
and
don't
him
want John
not
to
to
report
report for
to
other
Rich
times?
at all.
So when he's doing bids, you want him to report to Rich, the engineer, but when
No,
he's
that's not
doing
what I
his
said.
monthly
That's
report,
not what I said.
don't give it to Rich.
It's very clear what I said. This board contracts with an outside firm for $10,000 a month and exclusivity to these people's work. That work I see here with reports when a bid comes in. I want to know what was done for the town of Carmel each month for $10,000. That's what I'm asking. And I'm going to offer the resolution again, and you could vote it down, but I'm offering a resolution again that what happened to these people is disgraceful, what happened to this process is disgraceful, and it all falls under a very simple philosophy, okay? This is what happens when you give an employee 100% control over everything. Power takes over. There's zero respect for this board and the taxpayers because with the contract, he doesn't have to show any, all right? This is the bottom line. You do not go out to bid with a project that wasn't authorized. Period. End of story. A consultant does not run a municipal office. It's borderline illegal. If you go to the state, it's probably illegal. For him to say he didn't know what was happening.
You gotta stop using the word illegal. You gotta stop with your propaganda and just throwing stuff out there.
Propaganda, John?
Prove
I
it's
make a-
illegal.
I made a
Prove
resolution.
it's illegal. We've been doing this for over 12 years.
Greg,
Jack
is it
Corral
illegal?
hired out. Ron Gaynor hired out. Please tell me what, I mean, you keep saying the word illegal because you want to get your message out there. That's when I get offended
Do you take
by
offense
it.
to that?
I mean, come on, just stop the rhetoric and just throwing it out there.
Okay.
You know, you said
Give me
this
my
morning.
report.
Okay, you said this morning, I mean, this afternoon, you go, you know, we really should have had the first work session first instead of these. And let's talk about
I also said we
Water
should've had a
District
meeting last
9.
week.
But now, we're talking about the engineering department, not Water District 9, we're talking about the engineering department.
Oh, this
So-
has to
so-
do with Water
so-
District 9, because that 10 months cost these people $100,000. I'm in the business, I'm out there getting bids every day.
No, you know what cost?
I know exactly what blacktop went up, I know exactly what rock crushing is, I know exactly what machine work costs.
You know what, but you don't know what a unit price bid is. Because if we don't paint the yellow lines, we don't pay the $500. If we don't use the extra 100 yards of fill, we don't pay for it. If we don't dig an extra 200 feet of pipe, we don't pay for it. But you're in the business, but you want to tell
No,
you
I
want
want
to send the
them to
clear
hear it.
message that there's a
Not what
mistake,
you
there's a
said last
mistake.
time. I want them to hear it.
It's about, guys, it's a unit price bid.
Here's the bottom line, we're controlled by an outside consultant.
We're not controlled. We have a 30, you
we're
keep
not.
saying that. Stop the rhetoric. You say you read the contract. You have a 30-day out. You want to, okay, here it is. Resolution to terminate the contract. We're bound by him. We're stuck to him. But I got a resolution. I want to get rid of him. So which one is it? Are we bound by him, that
No, I
we're
don't wanna be
controlled
bound.
by him?
I don't think
Or
this
do we
board-
have an out
I don't
with
think
him?
this board or the taxpayers should be bound by anybody.
But just, and Mike, you say you have a solution. Tell us the whole business model of the engineering. Don't say, because
Go out to bid on everything.
Because in November, you sat
Why-
at that
this is
podium.
the
In
only
November, you sat at
town
that podium.
in Westchester and Putnam
In November.
that has 2 engineers.
In November, you sat at that podium and you said, I want Rich, let's eliminate Rich's position and give the whole engineering department to John. Then, fast forward 2 months, let's get rid of John and maybe we'll keep Rich. We'll see about that.
Excuse me, John.
Give me a new
I thought
business
we-
Oh,
model.
wait, Steve, let,
Just want to ask you one thing.
guys,
business model.
Steve, wait, there,
I
Just
thought
give me
we
a new business
negotiated
model.
contract. There's no new business model.
Just give me a
We're
new
trying to
business
clean up
model.
the old crap.
But, Mike, the old engineering department, and no disrespect to anyone that worked there or worked
Explain
current
to the
there.
public,
It wasn't
explain to the
perfect.
public why we have 2 engineers at $250,000. That's all.
Okay, first
Explain
off-
to the
first off-
public.
Mike,
first off, it's
that
more
has
than
nothing to
$250,000.
do with
It's a
Carmel.
great bargain for the public.
But Mike,
No,
we're
it's
talking
a-
about Carmel Water 2. It is budget time. We can certainly talk about the engineering department and all the
Many
3
people
gentlemen
voted
up
no.
here.
Tell me why,
Okay?
tell the
No,
public
no, Water
why.
9.
Just tell the public why.
You said 2. It's Water 9.
No, I said it's during budget time. We can certainly speak about the engineering department. Oh, we're talking about
Water
Water
9.
9.
Water 9.
Tell
Yeah.
the public
So
why
during
we
the
need 2
budget
engineers
department.
and an exclusive contract. That's all I want you to do. If
Because
you
in
vote
19
down the
because in
resolution,
1990, there was less requirements from New York State with MS4 and everything, and we have an engineer, we have an environmental engineer, we have a civil engineer. By the way, Brewster has a complete consultant engineer, and Yorktown has 2 engineers.
No, they
One,
don't. Not
yes,
full-time on
yeah,
staff.
Okay, Mike, one is called the Department of Works Supervisor, who's a PE.
it's a DPW.
A
Don't
DPW.
compare apples and
Okay,
oranges,
but it's
John.
the DPW, but Mike, listen. if
Every
you wanna-
DPW is funded by, is head by a PE.
Okay.
But
okay,
they
so
have
they
2
have 2
engineers. But they have 2 engineers. Thank you for Carmel Water 9.
we're going with it.
Yes. That's what I say. Just,
We're going with it.
I'd
but
Thank
like
you,
it never
sir.
happened.
what's being spent.
I second that.
No. Listen, Councilman Borelli has raised valid points that we need to discuss. Look, there's some residents that live in Water 9 that cannot afford this increase. It's not sustainable to them. It's more than they pay in town taxes. That's what they're going to be paying. You realize that, right? Nobody is arguing, nobody
No
is
one's arguing
arguing
that.
that this shouldn't be done. We're all in agreement it should be done. At what cost? That's the issue. At what cost?
I don't want this to happen to Lake Baldwin.
You just want to write a
They're
check?
next.
And then Water 14's next, and I live there.
That's what we need to get to. How we're going to do that. Now we could rebid the job. This board has the ability to reject all bids and rebid the job at what it was. without the added extras that were added to it, the extra linear feet that was added to it. And by the way, the original map plan and report, this might be trivial to some people, might not matter, but the original map plan and report that was filed by the engineer called for 8-inch pipe. Guess what the project was bid out at? What diameter pipe? 6-inch pipe.
6-inch.
It was changed from 8-inch to 6-inch.
Well, we're saying-
Who made the change?
6 inches is
And
fine.
why
It's
did they
more
make
than-
the change?
6 inches is more than
I
sufficient.
know, but I'm talking about an element. There was an
But
element of the project that was
that's what the
changed.
rest of this board doesn't want to hear. That things would change without us knowing and you knowing.
Correct. It requires, right, it requires us to take action so it doesn't happen again.
And we're not gonna do that here. You guys gotta get into executive session, you gotta get your engineering department together, and you gotta outline some steps of what you actually need, how much you actually need, and then potentially, if it's a unit price bid, it's a unit price bid, you're right, we don't have to use all the units, you may not have to.
No, this is happening.
But what is the real volume, and who's gonna monitor it? Who's gonna monitor that unit price volume? Is it us?
Who's going to monitor it? Who's going to monitor it?
Count the feet.
That gentleman right there, his firm, does the construction management and oversight. So who's going to monitor it? Your question.
If it's a fair price, we monitor it. The thing is, we've got to get somewhere where we're moving forward on this, not arguing with each other. If there's an
We've already moved forward on this.
But an internal issue on the engineering department is all well and good. You guys can do whatever you want with your engineering department.
God bless.
Bless you. Department, as you will.
You're paying for it, not, you'll be too, but you're paying for it.
Perfectly fine with that. Right now, people in here who want to get this project in their neighborhood done, understanding the cost situation and the sensitivity to it is absolutely real and appreciated by the neighborhood, but you've got to get moving.
What did you set a timeline?
Now is
Mhm.
not going to get us moving, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. You'd like a timeline, like you said before. Yes.
The problem, I do too, Susie, but we're in September now. The reality is, this is not going to get done until the spring of 2019.
Probably, but we can still give them a tentative timeline.
That's the reality.
That's what we can do.
He's going to start.
Right, right. We can give you something until the work actually starts, from now until then.
Let's ask all three of
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Depends on what, they're going to start. What do you think?
What's the question?
When will they start?
When do you think they'll start?
You can't, you got two answers on that, I think, two options on that. First is, if you've got to go through, if you don't make an award prior to the bond resolution, then you need a public
that can be
hearing.
resolved.
Bond
When can
resolution,
they
right,
start?
so if you could resolve that, I think Brennan will start immediately. I mean,
Yeah, I don't
if you
think
can
they're gonna
find
wait.
funding to enter the contract, I think you would start immediately. And there are, Kenny has a point in that there is some very specific coordination needs to be done with the highway department regarding staging equipment. When do we have it on the road? When do we get it off the road? Because snow removal on those roads is an issue. If this community is willing to close the roads, take maintenance and protection of traffic out of the job, take it out,
Yeah, I think there's a
okay? I mean,
So what's on the agenda then for tonight was the presentation of the recommendation to award the bid.
What I would
So
have
that's
liked to.
how this all started at the very beginning, just so you
What I would have
know.
liked to have is that the residents hear about the costs, look at the costs. Do you want a closed loop? Do you want an open, a closed system, an open system with the loop? So if you close it, it's gonna be a little bit more, but understand there's your unit price. You know, we talked about, a couple of residents said that Mike Simone, we've been waiting, the town has been waiting. So, you know, the curbs and the asphalt, it's gonna come in different, because once it's done, you know, next spring, Mike Simone is probably gonna have a crew up there paving all the roads, just like he did with 8, when that was done, and they followed through. So, and that's gonna save the taxpayers
Ask them if they want to do
money.
an internal vote with the president.
I'm sorry, sir?
Somebody's got to answer the question, do we need that other loop or don't?
Yes.
Well, you have an
So-
engineer, and the
My-
operator said yes.
my
Oh, no,
answer to your.
need is different than,
Yeah, need is.
My answer to your question is, do you need it? Need? No, because you've been operating there for how many years? Without it. Is it a better system with it? Yes. But is it net, can you eliminate it? Yes, you can. If I didn't think you could eliminate it, I wouldn't have provided the cost alternative without that in there. So yes, it could be eliminated.
So John, what is the pros and cons of having it and not having it? Not for me, for
Yeah,
for that. I mean, for me too, because I got to vote on it, but more
the
so
pro
for them.
is-
Yeah. Well, I asked it for them.
The pro is that it gives the operator, in his words, two routes to get to the tank. Left and a right at the top of, what is that road? Kirkwood. Okay, right now, when that main comes out of the top of Kirkwood, it only goes one way. And anything on Woodland, I guess it would be south of Kirkwood, okay, beyond a Kirkwood, other Kirkwood Woodland intersection, any breakdown there, the water supply stops. So this provides an alternative route. That's the pro. Okay, the con is without it, you don't have the alternative route. But the truth, the fact, is that you've run this system, Joe has run this system for however long the town's owned it. What year, Rob? 1990? Okay, so it's operated since at least 1990, and probably before that when the Simone's owned it, without that loop. So is it better to
Simone's
have it? In
installed
my
the first
opinion, yes.
leg.
Is it essential or necessary? Can you take it out of the job? Yes, it's not essential or necessary.
Okay. Thank you.
Right. You won't need the loop then.
Then that's the input that we want.
So take the loop, so take the loop out. Take the loop out.
We need to have a community meeting,
Yeah.
Steve, and get back to us by next week.
Correct.
On what direction you want to take, so we can get them started next week. It's really, you have to have a board meeting, you have to have it quick, telephone it, conference it if you have to, but we need an answer next week, so everybody here is in agreement to get it done. It's just a matter of how much of your money do you want to spend?
Correct.
As least as
And
possible.
Steve, you don't need the traffic control either. I happen to agree with John. You could take that out. That's 50,000 that you can save
Well, he
right there.
can't take that out. He has to just tell us.
25, 5, and 100.
Steve, you just have to tell us which of the designs the
If-
community wants to go with.
Exactly. The community needs to tell the board. If we write that out of the contract, you write it out of the contract. Okay, it'll speed production up. Do you need to tell me that before we go to contract signing, that what we're taking out of the job?
Okay, so John, so Steve, what John, up here. What Steve was saying, what John was saying is that you guys decide if you want this safety road closures or not, and then get back to him before you start, get back to us before you start, so we can keep it in or take it out. Okay, so I guess you guys as a community decide.
Right. Traffic
The traffic control.
No,
No, not the
you have
curbs.
curbs now?
The highway's probably going to do the curbs.
The-
All right, so do you need curbs
Yes,
now?
just those two things.
Ken, it's in the bid. It's in the bid.
Right.
All we need is a question on what they want to spend. Everything else is
The
in the
loop
bid.
All right,
and the safety,
Steve,
so right there are those
Can
two.
you call a meeting of the homeowners association? Okay.
Perfect.
We have a general meeting on September 29th for our association.
Oh, 29th.
Yeah, but you have to do it before that, Steve.
All right,
Can
can
it-
you get back to us
You
pretty
didn't
quickly?
hear me.
Can
You
you-
have to do it this
By
weekend.
Monday? Yeah.
If you want to get it in the ground before winter.
All right,
Okay.
because if we can get an answer, yeah, Steve, if we can get an answer prior to like Monday at 2, if you can give Kenny an answer prior to Monday at 2. This Monday, or before.
Are you going to be, all right,
Okay,
all right.
okay, perfect.
Well, no, the loop and the other elements too, the traffic
This
control.
traffic.
And the curbs.
Greg, all we really need to know is what amount are we bonding, right?
Greg, not necessarily, do you have the,
Are you going to increase the
Bid?
borrowing,
You have the bid
or are you going to do an interfund transfer? And that's going to dictate how fast you can award it.
So my theory is we could get that done now, and they can discuss it in 2 weeks, come back to us.
You're going to You borrow for the, you authorize the borrowing up to the full contract amount.
Correct.
And then you can remove whatever the units you don't.
Yeah, I mean, to keep
But
things
before
moving,
we-
instead of
but
rushing their
before we
board.
authorize a bid, we need to have a public hearing.
Right, yeah, right.
So we're not going to be authorizing a bid next week or the following week. We're
Right.
going to be not authorizing a bid till October.
Penny,
They want,
So,
whether or not they want to build certain units of the contract.
okay.
But we're still going to.
We can authorize the high amount, exactly.
Yeah, we
We'll
can
have to authorize
100%
at the
start
high
the
amount,
authorization
right.
without needing their final decision. I don't want them to rush
So here's
to a
what I can
conclusion.
do. I can speak to Douglas Goodfriend, our bond counsel, and at least get the public hearing, the order to call the public hearing scheduled, so that we can at least call the public hearing for the end of September?
26th?
Yeah.
26th, yeah. So we can actually get that resolution started at the 1,450,000, which is the 3,500 linear feet,
Yep,
which is the high project cost.
which is the higher, but it could be lower. Okay, so
All right,
hopefully.
so I can,
The public
and-
hearing
but
for
that
the,
does not mean that that's what we'll end up,
right.
Spending,
Spending,
right.
right,
But,
right.
so then, I guess in regards to when a decision is needed from the Hills Association, that's not Monday, because there's nothing that's gonna be done.
exactly.
If they decide in
exactly.
2 weeks, 3
Because
weeks,
we're,
it's
that's
still
what I'm,
fine.
that's what I'm saying, like, if we're
By the
gonna,
end of
don't-
September.
yeah, don't,
Ask
I don't
one
think we need
inconvenience
to rush
everybody.
on this,
Just one-
because,
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead, Jim. Can I ask you a question? Jim Maxwell, Mayapack Hills. If the low bidder at this moment were to agree to maintain his low bid, only go lower, is that legal, Mary Ann? If the low bidder at this moment, the one who gave the lowest bid, were to maintain his low bid, however, adjust it according to what we cut out of the contract.
That's in the contract.
That's going to be, that's in the contract specifications, it'll be in the construction contract. So it's not necessarily negotiation now, it's just, he's not going to be, he'll only be paid for what he builds, and the town can authorize or direct him not to build certain portions.
So then we possibly can stick with the bonding that we have now if he goes down to that amount.
No, the bonding's got to be authorized for the maximum expenditure on the contract. And then you just don't, and then you wouldn't borrow for the whole amount if you didn't build it out or.
Well, if
or
he
pay it.
agreed to stick with it, wouldn't that work?
if we authorize to borrow 1.2 million, but.
We already have,
No,
we
no,
have, we
but it
already
comes-
have the authorization for
For
what?
880.
860?
882,
88,
800.
okay.
So say it comes in at 950, we only borrow 950, even though we authorized.
Right, you have to
1.2.
authorize.
Right, but we don't have to have a public hearing then, we don't have to.
You do.
Go, we could save a lot of time
Yeah.
by
But-
speaking
but
with the
not
low
slowing
bidder.
anything
No,
up.
but we're
Sorry?
also,
It's not slowing anything up.
we're gonna.
Mary Ann just says, we'll schedule a public hearing. We'll work together with borrowing the money internally.
Internally.
You're gonna tell us what we want, what you want next week.
Okay,
The public hearing is in 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
so you don't have to go back out for bid.
No,
No, no.
We're working
not- no.
simultaneously,
Everything
Jim.
falls into place if you tell us what you want
All right, then that'll
in the
do it,
next
yeah.
week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Question
See,
in
you
regards to.
got it.
And Mr.
And-
Maxwell, that was the next
say
question I
something?
had.
Yes.
In regards to going, if we do have to go back out for bid, is there a limitation on how long this price is set for? Because I can't imagine we could say, you know what, we're going to hold off for another 9 months, and then we're going to break ground, give us this price.
There's a limit in the bid for how long his bid is good for, and I believe that it's 90 days. We can certainly, prior to the award, if we need additional time, ask him to hold that bid open for a longer period of time.
Okay. But I don't think that there's any intention whatsoever to hold anything up. We just want to make sure that legally we're putting everything in order, we're going through the process the appropriate way, because these numbers came back higher than what we already authorized.
We could. We're
Yes.
gonna try to have the public hearing on the 26th, on
September
September
26th.
26th. Greg, is that doable?
21 days.
20, all right, so, yeah. Okay.
Can we pass it?
Yeah, we may want to do a special voting meeting anyways, right, Mike?
Greg,
Next
can't we
week?
just do a resolution right now to do the, you can't? Okay.
All right, Jim?
Yeah,
Jim?
there may be some more.
The 26th, September 26th, the public hearing on the borrowing. Because there's an estoppel period, 21 days. Yeah? Yeah,
Hey, Ken,
yes?
I just want to, I wrote the board a rather extensive email back August 28th. Mike was alluding to it. I don't want to go into details on what's in it, but the bottom section of it that deals with, John is correct that this is an itemized contract. The contractor only gets paid for what he does. If he puts in 2,500 linear feet, he gets paid for 2,500 linear feet of pipe. If he does 3,500, he gets paid for 3,500. I would caution the board, okay, on awarding the contract at the 1.2 million and then simply writing a change order truncating the 1,000 feet right out. Be cautious, all right? Because that, even though you're entitled to reduce the scope and the amount of the work, there is a point at which reducing it it's too much. So by example, just let me finish. If you awarded a project for, say, 1,000 feet of pipe, and then you said, oh, the contractor's bid it on. And then you said, you know what, we're just gonna put in 100. You got yourself a problem, okay?
That's why we need their number ASAP.
No, but you got a problem, because if you reduce the scope of the work, so the contractor's bidding on an economy of scale, right? If I hire you to build a house for a 5,000 square foot house, and you give me a price, and then I say to you, no, I only want a 2,000 square foot price, I shouldn't expect to get the same square footage price when I make that reduction. So I've outlined in this email the appropriate way to handle that. Greg would handle it better. If the board is intent on only doing the 2,500, yet awarding it as if it's 3,500. Does that make sense?
You're cautioning against that, correct?
No, I'm cautioning.
He's just saying.
I'm cautioning you can do it.
Right.
It can be a problem. Be careful how you do it.
You guys, there was a time when the town would send me to seminars on just this sort of stuff, and we were always cautioned about reducing a project. Once you get to about 20% reduction, that could create a cause of action for the contractor against you.
Okay.
So when you try and reduce it by 40%, Brennan Construction is an excellent contractor. Okay? But when you cut his job in half, it could create a problem.
I would hope with as close as the bids were, and the fact that it's a local person in that district, that we should be able to work it out.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's not somebody from Jersey. No offense to Jersey, just somebody that's not.
Well,
I don't think they're watching us.
No. All right. Okay, is there any further on this? Okay, good. All right, there being none, I need a motion to close the meeting.
So moved.
OEFIT board members, you have anything else, or no?
No.
No?
School's
All right,
back, drive safely.
All right, so
Your
moved.
school's out, drive safely.
Who's second, and Susie, so moved to close?
Second?
Councilman Lupinacci, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, good night, everyone. Be well.